Welcome back to the No Mulligans podcast here in the studio at Franklin Bridge. I'm Jack. This is Scott. Scott, you can find him on Instagram at @SHassyGolf, 2 S's, 2 E's. Me on Instagram at JackBeard Real Estate, or the _JBeard, whoever you know me as.
The _JBeard_
Something, yeah, exactly,
yeah, something like that. A couple underscores.
Well, this is our last 2 episodes. So if you're listening to this one, the next one that comes out is going to be our last episode of the year. Yep. So thank you guys for an amazing 2023. And here's to 2024. Another cool thing that happened at the end of this year, we've got swag, baby. We've got swag. So Scott, you can see Scott if you're watching on YouTube. Scott's got the No Mulligans beanie on. Really cool.
I love this beanie, dude.
It's a good beanie, man.
It's solid.
It's a good beanie. And then I've got behind me on Scott's tour bag here the No Mulligans hat.
And then over in the corner, just grab the whole stack, dude. I know.
But this is my favorite one that we have. We've got No Mulligans pint glasses. And these things, believe me when I tell you, I don't know how many people are listening on audio and how many people are watching on YouTube, but it's
my favorite logo of our logos.
I agree. I've got some experience in beer glasses. This is a really good one. So the logo is really nice. It's kind of raised off of the glass, full color. It says No Mulligans Podcast. This one is a keeper. This one's a keeper.
Yeah. So get yourself the stuff. Unfortunately, you're going to have missed the window to get it for Christmas, but we'll get it to you in the new year. And
where can they find it, Scott?
Go to my Instagram. That's the easiest way to find it right now, and it'll also be in the show notes. The links to that. So
perfect.
It's a weird like something. Yeah. Something.
But it's in the Instagram show notes.
Right.
You guys should be able to find it.
Yep.
But we really appreciate you guys. And then we're also announcing, too, that come in the new year, we're going to be doing our Play with the Pod officially.
Yep.
The first one's going to be here at Franklin Bridge, and then we're going to be expanding across the region. Some courses that are special to Scott, some that are pretty cool marquee courses here in the South. So
and there's one I want to play that I gotta remember. It's like a little cheap muni that's like not anywhere near any of the stuff here local.
Yeah.
But we went and got some stuff. It's like kind of out towards Murfreesboro, but like away from Murfreesboro.
Okay.
And I think it's a little 9-hole muni that's like narrow as crap. And we went to buy something. I'm going, I really want to come play here one day.
Nice.
I think that will be a fun. I don't know the name of the golf course.
Yeah.
I have to go back and figure that out.
Yeah, we'll do like a meet and greet there on the course.
Yep.
That'd be great.
That'd be fun.
Super cool. Well, some big news has come out in the golf world, which is kind of transitioning us to our next point here.
I don't even want to talk about it.
Jon Rahm signing with LIV for a cool $600 million.
Yeah, what they say, somewhere between 4 and 6.
Yeah. I think they might have finalized it to say 600, something like that.
$600 million.
But it's a big bomb that dropped on the golf world because John was one of those people who came out when LIV was first being talked about, saying that he was absolutely against it.
Well, and everybody's like, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? I got to listen to the pod. I'm like, all right, man, we're going to bring it up and we'll see. I mean, I think it's kind of neat that we didn't shoot last week when it was like super fresh, because I've gotten to see a lot of opinions come through, a lot of questions get asked. You start to ask more questions yourself, and you're going, I can kind of see all the points.
Yeah, there's
hard.
There's a few key ones that I'll bring up here in the podcast where I think, from John's perspective, it actually makes total sense. Yeah. Tiger has, I believe that when the PGA Tour was negotiating with LIV last year or earlier this year,
right?
The negotiators at the table were completely different than they are now. Now the PGA Tour has a separate board seat for a player to be sitting on.
Yeah.
Tiger has taken up that seat. There's also talks about Cantlay getting really active in having a strong opinion in some of those conversations. But I think the first point I'll make up, which will kind of jump us into this conversation, is John was thinking, hey, if LIV and the PGA Tour are going to merge at some point, I'm just going to go ahead and get my bag and then,
get my money,
and nothing will be, everything will be all fine and dandy by the time all this gets ironed out.
That's not a bad,
also considering
that to me is one of the strongest, reasons, whether he said it that way or not. that makes a lot of sense in my head.
Totally. Also, the fact that he's won the Masters, he's in all of the majors for the next 5 years.
Right. He's in.
So he doesn't have to worry about qualifying there.
Right.
And then the only other thing that he said is going to be, would have been a big decision for him was the Ryder Cup. And I think he's betting, especially since the last one was, not too long ago, that will all get ironed out before the next one happens.
Well, and to me, I'm going to come negative first and then come positive. Like, the argument that's made to go to LIV if we're growing the game, I think that's nonsense. Okay, so there's only 2 sports right now in the industry, Okay, so there's only 2 youth sports right now on the whole that are actually growing. So those 2 sports are golf and tennis. They're the only 2 that are on the incline, and golf is up 32% for juniors. So it's not because of LIV that it's growing. So that to me is a moot point. It's the way the game is. COVID helped golf. There's a lot of things that happened in order for us to be where we're at with golf. It's very individual based. You can do it on your own time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's that argument to me needs to be just tossed out altogether. You're not going to grow the game. Now, if you think you're going to change maybe the way the game's viewed, yeah, but you're not the cause for growth by LIV. That to me is a waste of a point.
Yeah.
Don't try to, make you think you're better than you are. Just don't say that one. That's not it.
Yeah, and to support your point too, there's been a younger generation that is coming into the game, and I think that can be anybody down to junior golfers to anybody in their mid-20s, early 30s. I think COVID did a lot for the game of golf. Right. The one point that I heard that was really interesting, and I actually found pretty enlightening when I heard it, was that the average viewer of the PGA Tour, the average age of the viewer, do you want to guess how old they are?
Ooh.
You can play along at home too.
Give me a second.
I'll give you 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2.
I would say 47.
64.
Whoa, it's really old.
64 is the average age of the viewer that watches the PGA Tour. Now, so what can we gain from that? Well, we've got a new generation coming in. LIV has obviously started for one reason or another. We'd have to ask Greg Norman for that answer. But I say that to say, is there a need for a new format on a tour that is historically pretty old? Do we need a new format? Wow, that
64 number is really high. I was expecting around 50 would make sense. You've got some down the bottom. Right. It's still a little top heavy.
Right.
But that's super top heavy.
Yep, and I think aside from maybe baseball, and baseball bent the knee on this past year by changing some of the rules, I think other than baseball, golf is probably one of the only sports that is very old-fashioned in how they conduct their league. I think the PGA Tour and the MLB are really the only ones who have that kind of mindset towards the game.
Yeah, I think the question you have to ask is, why aren't people engaging with it that are younger? They're engaging with fantasy football and those types of things. Is there a world in which there's fantasy golf? I don't even know if that exists.
Well, you're exactly right, and I think that's one solution or one remedy to the problem, in a very minor sense. But I think that the argument that was brought up was LIV is very laid back. They play music on their tours. It's team oriented. They've got cool names for their teams. Are you trying to reach a different demographic? Or is the demographic different for LIV than it is for the PGA Tour? Some would argue yes. Some would argue no.
Yeah, I don't know. Just the PIF has deep pockets, and they will go for a very, 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 very long time. Remember how people used to laugh Amazon out the door? The first 7 years they were losing money. Well, the people that were funding Amazon have really deep pockets.
And that was the argument that I also heard for LIV, was that, hey, this league has deep enough pockets to be able to last those lean years where you're not necessarily worried about viewership. The big argument against LIV for some people who were pro PGA Tour this past year was nobody's tuning in, nobody wants to watch. Well, I would say that they're still in their infancy with the league, and they also haven't figured out how to broadcast it. And major networks don't really want LIV right now. That doesn't mean that they won't want them in the future.
Right.
But it's just an interesting business, sport, and logistics around all of that.
Well, speaking of the business point, right? So I'm not even going to get on the commentary of like the ethics of the PIF or the Saudis. I don't.
Let's go ahead and leave ethics out of all of this.
I just want to throw all that out and
for the sake of this. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's a whole separate podcast in and of itself. What I want to talk about is like how it affects the game, good or bad, indifferent, whatever. But here's the piece that I was holding on to. I was in the PGA Tour like bucket, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm not in the PGA Tour bucket. I'm definitely far more in the PGA Tour bucket than I am in the LIV bucket.
Sure.
But the thing I had to come to realize is the PGA Tour, does it do a lot of like philanthropic work? Absolutely it does. And the charities that are associated with like the PGA Tour and the charities that donate money, and you got Wells Fargo and Shell and all of these different companies that support the PGA Tour and these events to put them on. The Barbasol, like those are sponsors that have to pay in order for the event to make enough money to work.
The argument to that is that taking the average age of the demographic that watches the PGA Tour, 64, you could argue that some of those corporate sponsorships and money are just going to some of these rich CEOs that have an affinity for the game that want to enthuse their clients at some of these events.
Right. So that's a part of it, but it's also a tax write-off for them
100%,
because the PGA
100%.
Tour is a 501. I believe it's a C6. Somebody can fact check me on that, but I believe it's a 501c6, which I don't know the details of. I'm not an accountant, but it's basically still an arm of a charitable organization.
Correct.
The thing that I've had in my head is that the PGA Tour, and I think this is where people get upset, right? It's the integrity, like, oh, they're losing, they're going for money. Most of us take jobs
for the money.
Make a little more money, right? Now, right, like, are we doing it at that level, and are we involved with the Saudis, and, like, maybe not, right? But is, like, you take it to provide for your family or your personal goals, needs, wants, whatever. The PGA Tour is not a non-profit entity. Like, they are a big business. They're in the entertainment business. Like, that's what professional golf is. Like, I've got guys trying to get out on the PGA Tour. It's a big goal dream of theirs. That's awesome. I want to achieve that. I've got, Joe Schmo who's never played golf before, and he's 65 years old. He wants to learn how to play. I'm here for that. But it's like the PGA Tour is a business. It is in the entertainment business. They have a CEO, like him, hate him, commissioner, whatever. Like, they get paid big bucks, right? They are a business. Like, they're not a non-profit in terms of how I view entertainment. I do not view entertainment as a non-profit. Entertainment is entertainment. I watch the NFL for entertainment. Does the NFL do stuff for charitable organizations? Absolutely. Does the NBA? Absolutely. Should they do that? Absolutely. But so do millions of other companies that are multi-million, billion-dollar companies, right? So, like, I think the piece I came to terms with that's helped me, like, understand, like, okay, yeah, guys are going to go over there. Like, that's what they're going to do. They're going to take the money, but, like, the PGA Tour is still, it's in the entertainment space. Ohtani's what? 500 million?
700 million.
Okay, 700. Okay, Rob got the short end of the stick, but it's probably for a shorter contract.
So Ohtani is actually very, it runs in parallel with the same argument, actually.
Yeah.
So Ohtani's is actually crazy. So here's how the Dodgers are structuring it. It's 700 million. It's $2 million a year for the first, I believe it's 10 years, 20 million. And then after that, it's $68 million a year for the remaining years on his contract. So they're basically deferring all of that money to later in his contract so that the Dodgers can now go out and spend more on championship players to play with Ohtani to win rings. They are betting that Ohtani is going to bring them so much money in sponsorship, so much money in season tickets, so much money in seats, that they are going to defer and so much money in championships that they are going to defer that much money to him afterwards. The genius thing for Ohtani, he gets to play on a West Coast team, which is going to spend and win championships. And crazy tax thing here, the way that the tax laws are written and worked is that the money gets taxed based on the state that you reside in when you're making the money. So he's only going to be paying California tax for those first years, and then if he decides to go and reside somewhere else, he only gets taxed based on where he's at that point in time.
So that's
so if he moves to Tennessee, if he moves to Tennessee after year 10
or Alabama,
he doesn't get any of that taxed. Crazy.
Smart man,
probably smart agent. Probably smarter agent.
That agent is getting a very nice cut.
Yes, very much so. But I say that to say that LIVs looks like it's just going to get given in quote unquote signing bonus, when they come on. And I guess the Saudis have deep enough pockets to make that work.
This makes me think of something I haven't been a part of my thinking about all this, but it's like, if we want to be upset about how much money these guys are getting paid, newsflash, we're the ones consuming the material. So we are paying, the consumer is consuming entertainment, whether that be through the form of there's television sponsors where those dollars go towards, they all get split in various categories. Like, we are saying this is what we value. It's like, teachers need to get paid more. I was like, you're spending a whole lot more money on your team and all of their apparel and all their games and all that stuff. So you're saying the thing that you value is actually entertainment.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying, like, you can decide right or wrong. I'm just saying, like, if you're going to make that argument, yeah. Like, you have no leg to stand on.
Quite literally, put your money where your mouth is.
Right. And so, like, if we don't want them to get paid that much, we stop watching it being played.
Well, and man, I just think
it's a business.
It's a business, but let me ask you this:
I don't know how they make that much money. I'm like, really? He's getting paid $700 million? Like, where is that coming from? I cannot comprehend.
So this is
sponsorships? Is it what?
When we were texting about this the other night.
What is that?
When we were texting about this the other night, the one point I brought up to you, because you texted me something similar that what you just said, and I said, well, the difference between LIV and another professional sports organization is that you are guessing that player is providing an entertainment that then gets bought into, right? Which then gives them their money, right?
Right.
This whole LIV conversation is completely different because the sports league or organization in itself is not making the money. It is getting funded by a third party, aka the Saudis, from what I can understand in the PIF, right?
Right.
So that is where I have a fundamental problem as a capitalist and as a businessman myself. Is I want to know, and this is purely I'm so interested to know what the logistics are behind that money and how they believe that is an investment that will then pay off in the future. Because you can't bet on that right now. Nobody's watching LIV.
Right. Like, I don't know. Even out of my peer group as golf professionals, there aren't very many that are consuming LIV content one way, shape, or form.
Exactly. And I told you on text, I said, listen, they are betting that this is going to work. I'm sure their model says that it will, and I could see it succeeding truly, but the big thing is those Saudis are smart people too, man. Mm-hmm. They're going to cut their investment if it's not working. So I'm curious how this is going to play out.
Well, I think this is the part where people, okay, now we're going down this road. This is the part where people go, if it doesn't make financial sense, is there a bigger play?
Right.
If we're thinking chess level, elite level chess, is this actually a play at something else?
Yeah, and
longer term, because
when
they
the Saudis
could probably buy professional golf, NFL, NBA, MLB. They could probably buy them all.
Yeah.
That's probably how much money they've got.
Yeah.
Like, is that a play? And that's where the Congress comes in. Like, whoa, hang on a second. You're going to do what with whom?
Right.
And you're a 501c6, which hopefully those are the types of things you want the government to do, right? It's like,
sure.
Wait a second, red flag. We're going to throw a flag on the play here.
Yeah.
Like, we got to take a timeout. And, like, I don't know.
So
like, I just think there's a lot of weird scenarios that could potentially play out aside from the, like, ethical component of it. But, like, now does all of this now call to question the PGA Tour status? Like, even if they don't merge, now it's like, wait a second, should they actually be a 501c6? Then how does the PGA Tour actually fund itself? Because it's based on dollars that come in that then can get written off, and now they can't get written off.
Yep, so let me step in here. So with what I think could be happening is the Saudis, it's no joke that the Saudis are wanting to get into more entertainment. Right. They just did it. They've done it with. They've done it at small scale with not WWE, with UFC. With the UFC, they've done it at small scales, having fights over there, funding those fights and all that kind of stuff. And then I think what they're going to be doing here with LIV is I think they're trying to lure some of the big names, Rom, DJ, etc. Lure some of the big names to come play on their tour. Now, talk to the PGA Tour and say, listen, man, we've got leverage over here playing for our guys.
They do.
So let's make a deal work. Let's go 50-50 in on this. And now the Saudis have their foot in the door in American sports, specifically in golf over here too. And I mean, you can see they've probably played it out at a small scale with DP World Tour. I don't know too much about the logistics over there, but
I don't.
Over in some of those, there are some tournaments over there too.
Look how closed off both of our body languages are.
Yeah.
It's a weird.
It's just hard, man. Like, it's just hard because it's hard to have I think when you're making decisions, you have to look at things logically, you have to look at things ethically, you have to look at things against your own moral code. And I think right now everybody just has an opinion, and I don't think anybody's right at this point in time.
Yeah.
Or has the answer.
Right. I think right now we're in this limbo of like, where is professional golf going? And that's an uncomfortable place to be, and I think it's why everybody's so heated. They're heated on both sides, right? It's whichever side of the aisle you take. And this isn't it. So this is a complete, like, 180 on something else. You notice that Greg Norman hasn't been a part of – his face hasn't even been out for months, and then all of a sudden – the handshake with Rahm. You're like, whoa, where Norman's now, it's almost like getting Rahm was enough to, like, Greg to say, hey, I'm back in this. Like, I'm not out. I know y'all haven't seen me, but it's almost like it was finally safe for him to come back out because he was able to pull such a well-liked and dominant player. It was basically he versus Scheffler in a lot of tournaments.
Well, I think that Norman is he's the pretty picture of LIV, right? Because you can say this guy played on the tour, the PGA Tour. He's been talking about one of this
30 years.
He's the canvas of this, right? I think that he was
also
a big name coming out because you want to be able for Americans or people who consume the PGA Tour to have a view of LIV being like, oh, this guy came from what you know and love. Now he's going to be over there, so why don't you follow him over there? Then it got into the negotiations. You had what is his name? The head of the PIF, Al Masad. I can't.
You're going to ask me to pronounce that?
But now they're getting into talks, right? Those talks kind of fizzled out. Now you're like, okay, we're not done. We're going to go take Rahm. Mm-hmm. They get Rahm, and now you see Greg Norman come back. Oh, look, we got this new one, and I guarantee you we're going to try and see some. They're using it as a leverage play to try and get negotiations back to the tour.
Now, Finau, we heard rumors. Finau going, and Finau said, "I'm not leaving."
And I think his morals and not saying
people are like he would go for his family. It's like you underestimate his
morals. Yeah,
he's like no, money isn't
everything to him,
right?
And
if he were to lose his ability to play golf tomorrow,
he'd be fine.
And not because he's got enough money, but because he's got his family, and that's what matters to him.
He's got his family. That's
one of the reasons why I think he hasn't won as much because he's a family guy.
Well, they talked about it on the first swing
on the
full swing. Documentary.
Yeah.
That's exactly
good.
Right.
Yeah, and so it's where do we go? Freddie came out. Freddie was vocal, man. He's like, I don't have a problem if you want to go over there for the LIV, but don't say you're changing the game. He used a lot more
explicitives.
A lot more explicitives. But like, where is that thing going? And I think this brings up the big question: is like, where is golf headed? Right? And so at the front of that whole where is golf headed, you've got the tour side, like what's happening with the tours, live, not live, live or let not live. Like, then you've got the USGA RNA going, hey, we see where this game's going in 10, 20, 30 years, and we need to try to cap this somehow.
You know what's wild about all of that is the PGA itself does not own not one of the majors, or I believe any golf tournament of that being said either. I know they don't own the majors.
Who? The PGA Tour?
Yeah. No, the PGA.
No, the PGA of America is you
Only
have the PGA Championship,
but like,
got one.
What was it that I heard? I believe it might be the tour. I think it's just the tour.
So the question then becomes, does a tour like LIV, if they get enough leverage, can they basically look at the USGA and RNA and go, sorry, we are changing the rules by which golf can be played by, because guess what? They're the tournament hosts. They can set whatever rules they want. In theory, they could do that. Is that good for the game? I don't think so.
No.
But like, that's where things get a little dicey, and I think that's where, everybody's screaming, oh, the USGA is out of touch. Actually, they're more in touch than anybody is. They've run way more tests, way more studies than any other department. I don't care if there's a small company out there that's like, well, we've run some stuff, or Titleist has run, or whatever. It's like, yeah, but they're trying to be the unbiased party. They don't have a stake. Like, if you think about it, they don't have a stake in anything.
No, which is stupid on their part, in my opinion. I see what you're saying. Sorry, I've got a visceral reaction to that, but like, you needed to. It probably didn't make sense years ago to like even. You're like, everything's running fine. There's no other place to play golf. Like, we're good, But now that there's some threats to it, it's like they haven't leveraged themselves well to have a say in any of this matter.
And I'm a purist. I love the old tracks.
Oh, me too.
I don't like a lot of the new tracks.
I'm not even talking about the tracks. I personally, for me, I'm talking about just the pure history of the game.
Oh,
I think if you negate that, or if you try and make it go away just by calling having a new cool way to play the game, I don't think that's a way to honor the sport or have it go in a direction that is true to its history.
Yeah, and I think everybody's mad at there's a whole bunch of people mad at, not everybody, there's a whole bunch of people that are mad at the USGA and the RNA, but part of their job, it's just like a child being mad at a parent, right? Part of the job of a parent is to direct the child and see farther down the road than we can see. So regardless of whether you like that or agree with it, that's what their role is. That's what their job is. Their job is to see farther than we can see, and to not be influenced by the dollars on the table, right? I'm sure they make money in various ways and through various charities and whatever, and donations, I'm sure. But it's, can we, where's the game headed? Somebody's finally saying, where's the game headed? And you know what? They do it in other sports too, like for cycling. There's a limit to how good the bikes can become. And there were some races that were won with bikes that went back, and they're like, no, we're not going to rewrite the history books. In fact, that race actually doesn't count now. Even though you won the race, you get to keep your reward, whatever, but it no longer sits in a record because that bike is way too souped up. It's not a relevant marker. You can't say you're the best because it's so far advanced.
Yeah, I think that the PGA Tour, and I mean, I'm not going to say LIV, because LIV seems to be the one who's firing all the shots here.
That's what it feels like.
I would say that this is going in a very similar direction to Formula One racing as well. And I'm not going to bore everybody with the details, but Formula One is an international sport. It is governed by an independent body called the FIA, which determines all the the safety standards, all of racing rules and all that kind of stuff. And they also execute the rules during the race, right? And they tell you when you've got a penalty, etc. You also have now Formula One, which is the business of racing. Formula One is a different entity, right? And then they have all of their teams that are involved in it, the 10 teams that are involved, that are all different as well. So you see, you have the FIA, which is governing the sport, and then you have the sport itself, which is the business, right? I think that the PGA Tour is kind of the same way.
Correct.
So where do we go from here? Well, it sounds like the people who are running the PGA Tour are not doing their job by governing the sport, and now you have the PIF and LIV buying out their, the teams, aka the players, out from under them.
Correct. And it sounds like the PGA Tour took way too long to finally raise the financial dollars. If they had raised the dollars even a year before LIV showed up, like once LIV finally came to the table, like, oh crap, now we got to do something. So now we gave a base pay to all the tour players. Like now we raised the purses. It's like, well, you did that in response to LIV. The question is, could you have done that in the first place?
Right, which is why I brought up the whole Formula One example. Is because I think that these tours, or the PGA Tour specifically, can learn from the business of Formula One to try and find a way where, like, you're not gonna be caught with your pants down.
Yeah, and I bet, honestly, they probably didn't see Greg Norman as a legitimate threat when it was first. Yeah. I'm sure they heard rumors well before LIV was even a thing.
Well, and Greg Norman, too, is just the epitome of the boy who cried wolf, it feels like. So it's,
right, he's been talking about it since the 90s. It's like, it's never going to, oh, crap, it's actually happening.
Yeah.
Now what, right? And maybe he won by that. Like, who knows? But, for me, I look at that. It's going to bring it back 10 to 15 yards. The vast majority of people aren't going to notice it.
Oh, we're talking about rollback now.
Yeah.
Whoa,
that's my switch. That's my switch into the USGA RNA, right?
You did that very abruptly, so now we're going to talk about this rollback rule, right? Because
it's all a part of this whole, where's golf going?
Right. So now let's get into the rollback. So what has happened on the rollback?
So the USGA's published their work. It's showing 10 to 15 yards for a tour player on the driver, and LPGA is looking like 5 to 8. Like, it's not much, or 7 to 10, whatever it is. It's really not much. And we know from BPNOP and POA that hitting it farther really doesn't have that much of a merit. It does have some merit, right, because it can help you hit it closer, but it doesn't. Like, angles are way more important than how far you hit it. It's still a game of precision. So for me, I'm like, okay, rolling it back 10 to 15, man, the public's only going to see somewhere between like 4 and 8, 4 and 7, which is negligible. They're not going to notice it. They're just not. Like, those same people are losing distance every year anyway because they're getting older.
And a lot of those people, me included, if you hit a good one, sometimes you don't know why. And if you hit a bad one, or one that's okay, it's like, you can't compare that to whatever your like average is.
No.
Only the best in the world are going to be able to.
And so for me, I'm like, y'all chill out. A, it's not going to do that much. B, like, it's what was I going to say? So A, it's not going to do that much.
Yep.
B, it's not happening until 2030 for the public. Y'all, it's 6 years away. What are we freaking out about? Like, it's also enough time that it's a respectable timeline. They're respecting the manufacturers. They're not just going like, hey, you're going to shut down all your shops and change all your, all your manufacturing processes by...
all that money you have in inventory, trash it.
Yeah. Like, they're not just totally trashing all these companies. These companies are like, they're not hearing us. It's like, they're giving you, for the tour, they're giving you almost 4.5 years of notice for the tour. And they're giving the public 6.5. Like, y'all, it's way down the road. And part of the reason, and I think you will actually see guys like hitting it as far as you're seeing coming. Like, these kids that are coming up. We got Daniel Martin's one of my, like, he's at a small community college in Mississippi. And he's got a 120-mile-an-hour club head speed. He's not even working out. He's not even one of the ones that are swinging fast. Got another college guy that's at 120, and I got Micah that's at 117. Like, and they're not even fully training at the level that those, like, whether they make it out there or not doesn't matter. That's what's coming.
Yeah,
it's just so much deeper. And so the PGA Tour is trying to see far enough down the road. And maybe they look at it and go, hey, we're going to push that back till 2032, 2035. Right? It's not short-sighted. and out of touch. It's actually very in touch, and it's where are we going? You do this in your business. If you own a business, if you're going to run it well, you need to pay attention to how things are moving.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Or you're going to die by it.
I think a lot of people are freaking out just because length has been a very hot button topic.
It's what everybody's sold for the last 25 years.
Exactly.
Ever since Tiger, that's been the massive focus.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I just think that there's a big stigma that, oh my God. Like, for example, some of these people that are out here on the course playing Pro V1s wouldn't know the difference between that and a ball they find in the lake.
No, they're not going to play that much different. We've proven that.
Exactly. So I think, based on what you've said, I've reconsidered my stance on this, and I actually agree with you. And number 3,
here we go.
I wouldn't be surprised if the USGA has. I wouldn't be surprised if they're actually making a target for like 2035, and they're just telling 2030 to get some of these manufacturers on the ball quicker than because they know it's going to take time to make this adjustment.
I think that's a smart move. I don't think you'll actually see it go into place that soon.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Right, you need to make some noise, let it fizzle, and then make some noise and let it fizzle. Because you have to desensitize to a certain degree.
So I've got a question for you when it comes to club manufacturing, and I don't know how much you'll know about this or not.
It'll be pretty weak.
There's been ever since Tiger, you mentioned it, there's been a lot of emphasis on speed and length, right?
I don't have my marketing signs up in here, but
it's all good. How much of this rollback will then be negated by club manufacturers trying to make their clubs better and make them hit the ball farther?
Well, there's rumors that's the next piece that the USGA is going to go after is the equipment.
Yep.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they do. Like, I look at 10 to 15, I'm like, it's really not going to do much.
But do you think that the club manufacturers will be able to advance their technology to make the rollback almost a non-factor?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, every year they come out, this is our longest driver yet. I was like, I mean, guys, yeah, maybe by like fractions of a yard, but like on the average, as people hit clubs, they still revert to their dominant habits, and like that's not going to be all that much longer. And from a playing standpoint, it really doesn't do that much.
Yeah.
It's really not like, oh, I got to hit a 7-iron into this green instead of an 8-iron. Like, yeah, you're still on the wrong side of the hole.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. As I've gotten better as a player, man, I've started. I don't care. I don't really care how far I hit the ball. I only want to know so I can get on the green. But the one thing that I've been thinking about much more as a higher level player than I was a couple years ago was controlling spin. Right. Whether that's on my wedges or a short iron, like. I care. I don't. If you told me, hey, we're going to get the rollback, but you're going to be able to play with your spin a lot more for some way or another, I'd be like, hell yeah, bring on the rollback.
Right.
I just think that people are focusing on the wrong things. People want to just muscle it further, but if I can get an extra couple hundred RPMs on a wedge, that's going to be the difference between stopping it at the hole or not.
And I honestly, there's a lot of different ways that they can bring distance back. Shoot, there's way too many balls I see rolling out 50 yards, like 40, 50 yards on the tour. At least when you watch it on TV, it's like, oh, I hit it 340 or hit it 335. Hey, he carried it 285. Like, what if you made the fairways in such a way that they did when they landed, even with low spin at 285, they don't roll to 335 yards.
Yeah, or you have to make a decision between, like, a more stock driver, or if you take out your high launch 3-wood and have to stop it right at the fringe of the fairway. It's like that would be entertaining to me.
Right. There's a lot of different ways to make it play longer. I honestly don't. If you're going to roll it back, I don't think 10 to 15 is enough. This is not going to do hardly anything at all.
Yeah, I agree with you there. So if you were going to be setting the rollback rules, what would be your target yardage that is not going to affect the game? Well, it's going to affect the game, but not affect it to a worsening.
If you're gonna roll it back so that a lot of these courses kind of maintain their same design and integrity over the course of 30, 40, 50 years instead of 5 to 10 years. I think it's, and I think that's an important qualifier, right? They're trying to keep it for a bunch of reasons, but they're trying to keep the game as close to the game as it used to be.
Yeah.
And whether you like that or agree with that or not, that's up to you. But that's what they're trying to do, and I don't think 10 to 15 is enough. They've already lengthened holes by 30, 40, 50 yards. So if you're going to roll it back, you got to roll it back 30.
Yeah, I completely agree. And there's been times,
minimum of 20, maximum of 40. Like, you got to roll it back an average of 30 yards. I just, fine. Bifurcate, that's great. Let the professionals play with a different type of ball. Like, you do it in baseball. Tiger's been talking about that since early 2000s.
Yeah.
So, Tiger's been on that equation, which hurts him. Be like, oh, yeah, it hurts the other player more. It's like, yeah, but, it actually forces the longer hitter to actually have to deal with some of those hazards.
That's actually...
And it brings the shorter player back a little bit, but it also brings it back into the wider parts of the fairway.
Yeah, I love that analogy with baseball because there's 3 different types of baseballs. There's a high school ball, there's a college ball, and there's a pro ball. Mm-hmm. And then not only that, but as everybody knows, as you go from college to professional, you go from a metal bat to a wood bat. There's your rollback. Right. So
how much is it? What's the how much shorter do you hit it?
So I'm gonna save you all the details. There was an era in bats called BESR bats. That was up until about I don't know the exact date. I would just say 2010 just to be safe about it. Those things were like trampolines. You hit the ball and it goes 400 and 500 feet. It's a long.
It's got a lot of velocity.
And the reason why they started using a different bat that's now called BB Core. That one most resembles a wood bat, and it's based on exit velocity off of the bat.
And we're talking MLB, not college. Or are we talking college?
Talking about high school and college.
Oh, high school and college.
High school and college. So you went from BESR, the trampoline bats, to BB Core, which more resemble a wood bat, but they were doing it for safety because people were third baseman catching a hot line drive. That thing's coming at you at a freaking 120 miles an hour.
And if you could slow it to 105.
Exactly. It's much safer, and they also did studies to where it doesn't affect the distance all that much. So, and then you get to professional, and it's just not you're hitting with wood. You got to hit it hard.
How much shorter does the ball travel with wood?
It's definitely shorter. I wouldn't say it's by a considerable margin to be.
But you got to be good to be able to hit.
The biggest thing that I would say with baseball in this is that a BB Core bat is like hitting with a game improvement iron, and a wood bat is like hitting with a blade.
Okay, that's a fair comparison.
Yeah.
If you hit them both out of the center, the game improvement iron is going to go 10 to 15 yards further.
Yep.
But it's not going to be 40.
Yeah, bingo. Yeah.
But it's substantial. It's a club and a half.
Definitely. And with the wood bats, I mean, again, I would say it's like a blade. Not only do you have to get the location right, but you have to get the launch angle right.
Yeah. That makes sense. That's actually really helpful. I think, for everybody, just take a deep breath. This isn't something for you to worry about. Mm-hmm. You're going to have an opinion on it, but guess what? Your opinion doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can voice it on social and hope you can move some needles and talk to your friends. If you want to move the needle, by all means. But, there are forces at work that are way bigger than you and I are that are moving these needles for better or for worse. And do we have a role? If you are adamant, opposed to the whole LIV and the Saudi thing, by all means, do your thing. I just think there's so much we don't know. We're only seeing what either A, we see, or is being told, B, what we want to see of that, right? And what I'm trying to do is provide, just think through it. Think through the USGA and the RNA. Don't just throw them up as the worst people on the planet. Maybe we should be really critical of PIF and LIV. I don't know enough about all that to know. If you get me into world politics and all that, I just have no knowledge there, so I can't even speak to it. You don't believe? I was like, guys, I buy stuff from companies that probably do stuff that I would never agree with, So I don't know, but it's just keep asking questions. Don't freak out. Golf is healthy. It's still healthy. It's still moving forward. It's is LIV gonna live or is it gonna die? The time will tell. Is the PGA Tour going to change? Probably.
Clip it, Tate. That's the name of the podcast. Is LIV going to live?
Is LIV going to live? That's so good. Yeah. It's just I don't know. I don't like the uncertainty of where the game is going, and it feels very money driven, but it's a business like Major League Baseball, NFL, and otherwise, and it's not the non-profit entity that I think we want it to be. And the integrity of the game is up to each individual player, always has been. It's the only game that you can call a penalty on yourself. And is the PGA Tour going to call a penalty on themselves? Is LIV going to do that? I don't know. But
yeah, I mean, I think
you can do it. Be the guy.
My final comments here would be that both organizations are doing what they feel like is best for their individual organization, whether that's right or wrong. I will also say that I think that this discussion is almost like how we as Americans view our presidential race. We need to be a lot more worried about golf at our local level or politics at our local level rather than from a national level. Yeah. I think if you guys are having fun here at the Bridge, you're enjoying the game, and you enjoy playing with your friends, I think that's all that matters.
And if you don't like big money stuff, don't go to it. I'm going to go to LIV when it's here in Nashville because I just want to see it. Yeah. I'm sitting here forming an opinion about something other than like the ethical stuff that I don't really know anything about. I might show up and be like, this is cool. Yeah. I might go like, this is the dumbest thing ever. Like, but I can't form that opinion until I go, and I really truly can't form that opinion if I go in completely biased, like this is going to be terrible. I'm just going to go see how terrible it is.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that my feet are the majority in the PGA Tour bucket.
Yeah,
by far. However,
I have like a pinky toe over.
I don't think LIV is a bad thing. I don't think it's a good thing, but I definitely don't think it's a bad thing. It's giving us another perspective. It's giving us an idea of it's giving us a choice of what we want as a consumer. And it's also, in a capitalist mindset, both organizations are doing what they can to grab the most eyeballs. And I think that the PGA Tour in itself has been such an old organization that's had the same demographic for a very long amount of time. Dude, honestly, the tour needed competition to get its butt into shape.
Well, you know, it's really interesting.
Grant Thornton Classic that just happened.
Right.
First LPGA and PGA Tour combined event. But what is that from? It's from the PGA getting threat from LIV and being like, well, we need to do different stuff, right?
So at the very least, like LIV has ignited some, like, it's at least shaken the PGA Tour up enough to go like, hey, let's keep all of our traditional big tournaments. Like the Waste Management is it is not like the PGA Tour norm. It is very separate.
Yes.
And are there certain events that are starting to look more like that? Yeah. Is Augusta going to look like that? No.
Never.
No different than like if I come play out here at the Bridge versus I go play at Country Club of Birmingham or I go play at Firestone. I'm going to dress differently. I'm going to walk around differently. Like if I have 2 golf bags, I'm probably going to take a different golf bag. I'm going to wear different clothes. Like, you don't have to worry about Augusta looking like LIV. Like, it's never going to, never has been, never will be, because they know the direction they're traveling in.
And the beauty of all of that, what you just described, and this is just the beauty of golf in general, and I think this is a great place to wrap us up, is that each one of those, the game can camouflage to whatever that person wants it to be. If you want to go play at a nice country club, you can go do that. If you want to play on a Muni, you can do that. If you come here to Franklin Bridge, you can do that.
If you want to go to Sweetens Cove and play a tensum,
and play a tensum for the entire day with one tee time, you can
have a shot before you tee off on the first hole.
Oh my God! Like, there's so many different ways to play the game. I think that the competition is good, and I think that the competition at this level is giving us the diversity that we need to figure out where the game's going to go in the future.
Ooh, gosh, I have nothing to say. That's great.
I love it. Well, guys, remember, you got swag. You got swag now. No Mulligans swag. Go to the link in Scott's bio. It's also in the show notes to be able to get some No Mulligans swag. Scott's got the beanie on. We've got the pint glasses over here, the hats over here.
Instead of have a drink on us, have a drink and support us.
Bingo. Have a drink and support us. Love that. But, yeah, we're going to do, this is our first merch run. We're very excited about it. Some of the stuff came out fantastic, and we're excited for the future.
I think we're going to do some unique swag.
Unique stuff?
Like you can only get, and it'll be a short run. It'll be
and exclusive.
Right.
And maybe we'll do a limited merch run for each Play with the Pod that we do at different courses.
Yeah, that will be a different, like, thing for each one.
For
like,
sure.
You can't get it unless you go.
Bingo.
So
sweet. Well,
awesome.
From Scott, SSE Golf over here, Jack Beard Real Estate, or _J Beard. Thank you guys for listening to the show. If you guys have found value in this, found anything interesting, or want to send it to your friend who is all about LIV Golf, make sure that you go and share the episode as well. It really helps for the people who are looking for podcasts just like this. So rate us 5 stars. Thank you for listening, watching, viewing, and subscribing. We love you guys. And last episode of 2024 coming up next, so don't miss it.
2023.
Excuse me.
Last one of 2023.
Last one of 2023 before we go into 2024. From Scott and Jack inside the studio at Franklin Bridge. This is the No Mulligans podcast. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.